All right, boys. Nice to meet you guys. My name is Nicholas Valenti. I am a performance dietitian with Long Island Medical Nutrition Therapy. Big shout out to Coach Danny for bringing me down. I'm pumped to do this, and I hope you guys take something from this. Today's talk, we're going to be really ripping through a lot of nutrition, but it's a lot bigger than just food. It's how you train, how you recover, and how you hydrate. Even how you approach the game mentally, it's all connected. Here's the deal. I'm not going to overload you guys today with random facts. I'm really going to try to give you guys some education you can walk away with and start up tomorrow. By the end of this, whatever your goals are, putting on muscle, leaning out, or just finding a little bit more on the field, you'll have the education to make that decision, make those smart decisions, kind of moving you towards that goal. All right, game plan. So I'm going to start with a little bit of who I am, my background, kind of how I ended up on the screen in front of you. We'll clear up a big one, the difference between a dietitian and a nutritionist. Then we'll hit the essentials: macronutrients, micronutrients, energy balance, hydration, and supplements. From there, we'll tie it back to baseball, how fueling impacts your performance and development. To close, we're going to talk a little bit about your upcoming schedule, how to plan for that fueling schedule. And then any questions along the way, like I said, just make sure that we try to jot them down so we don't forget them. All right. So again, my name's Nick. I'm a registered dietitian. I grew up in West Islip on Long Island. I played ball as a catcher at Mercy College, transferred to Queens. I studied nutrition and dietetics there. Like a lot of guys, my career got cut short due to injuries. But honestly, it was a blessing because it allowed me to kind of dive deeper into performance and nutrition. After undergrad and COVID flipped the world upside down, I went down to Florida State. I got my master's in exercise physiology with a major in sports nutrition, and that kind of opened the doors for me to get some cool opportunities. I spent some time in pro ball with the Toronto Blue Jays. I did some training at Cressy Sports Performance where I kind of learned how nutrition and strength and conditioning really connected. And that's kind of where me and Danny crossed paths, grinding it out on the hard streets of West Palm Beach. And I got to say, I know the struggle of Division two ball. I definitely didn't have the strength coach like you guys have in Danny. You guys hit the lotto with him, and even though we know he's a basketball guy at heart. After bouncing around the country, I came back to Long Island and I launched our practice. These days, I work with a lot of athletes in your guys' situations, a lot of college guys, a lot of semi-pro guys, and even a couple professional guys, which really just try to help you guys connect the dots between fueling, training, and recovery. We really just want to make sure you guys can connect all that and kind of strive towards your goals. What is a dietitian? It's not some fancy word for nutritionist, and it's not something you get from watching a few hours of online videos or passing a quiz. To become an RD, you need 6 years of college education in chemistry, metabolic pathways, and counseling, over 1,000 hours of supervised practice, and you need to pass a nationally accredited exam. The RD credential is a protected medical title like an MD or an NP, and it allows me to practice medical nutrition therapy, helping anything from weight management and diabetes to my specialty, sports performance. You'll find RDs working on behind the scenes in hospitals, managing patient diets, writing tube feeds, and making sure food and medications interact safely. Fun fact, American Heart Association in 2018 reported that 71% of U.S. medical schools provide fewer than 25 hours of nutrition education. So when it comes to nutrition expertise, RDs really do lead the way. We want to make sure we're getting credentialed information from the right people, boys. Let's jump in to the big three. We got our macronutrients. And a lot of this stuff may seem pretty simple, but stick with me, it builds on each other. Your carbohydrates are your primary fuel. If someone tells you to avoid carbs, you need to be running far, far away. We need to think of carbs as the gas in our tank. Baseball isn't always about constant sprinting like soccer or basketball, but you're doing a lot of explosive and high intensity work. Your sprints, your throws, that's all burning up that calories or those from those carbs really quickly. Your carbs fuel your brain. That means your focus, your reaction time, and your decision making. I don't have to say how much that impacts you at the plate or in the field. We don't want to suffer if we're underfueled. You have to make sure we have a plan. I mean, college athletes often undereat carbs because of the mantra, carbs make you fat, they can make you bloat. But in myth, if you're leaving carbs out of your diet, you're leaving potential out of your game. We need to make sure we find it so it all connects. Examples of carbs we have listed on the screen. If you guys have questions about how to kind of craft them in later, after we go through everything, I'll be happy to help you pick out some options. Um, Next one ripping up is we're talking about fats. Fats, yes, is our long-term energy, but it's also our recovery and support. Fats are our slow burning fuel, not what we really use to fuel us as players, but that in between stuff, it does help. The biggest thing we need to understand for baseball players is fats control our hormonal health, our testosterone, our growth hormone, recovery, all things we need as young, developing young men. They're also essential for absorbing our vitamins, our fat soluble vitamins, our A, D, E, and K. They control our bone health, our immunity, and our inflammation. They are important. Cutting out fats, like you see on a lot of these fad diets, can crush your recovery, your mood, and your focus. Trust me, you don't want that to happen. Some good sources, and we could talk about others later, are avocados, or olive oil, nuts, seeds, fatty fish, tuna, salmon, chicken packets. You guys should be living on this stuff. And then obviously protein. So we all know protein repairs and builds muscles after lifts, practices, and games. Without it, you're basically breaking yourself down without rebuilding. But the biggest one I want you guys to take away too is it helps your immune system. College life, we have a lot of stress, a lot of travel, a lot of lack of sleep. Getting sick in season can cost you at bats, innings, and loss of your potential. Most of what you need is most of what you think you need is more than a protein bar and a scoop of protein. That isn't enough to cover your full day's worth of training or on the field. We're trying to really aim for every snack or meal to be within 20 to 40 grams of protein, depending on the size. Why this matters, you can't just eat protein and expect to grow. We need to have a baseline for it. If you have a goal weight of hitting 200 pounds, you should be eating around 200 grams of protein a day. You can't just magically turn these workouts into muscle growth if you're not giving your body the stuff to rebuild. You can't just skip out on loading up on your carbs beforehand, and you can't just cut out fats and expect your hormones to stay balanced. We need a balance between our carbs, fats, and proteins. Performance equals balance. If you're missing one piece, you're underfueling and leaving your velocity, bat speed, strength gains all on the table. For our key takeaway for you guys is you guys are at the point where nutrition choices can literally decide on whether your careers continue or it's time to hang up those cleats. There is no better time or a better wake-up call than it is right now. We want to make sure that we take it to the next step. All right. So, energy balance, we're going to talk about the dreaded word, the calorie. And I want you guys to understand that when we're talking about calories, calorie and energy are interchangeable for this conversation. If I say one, it means the other. So let's not try to overcomplicate this. At the end of the day, calories again are just energy. That's it. The energy we get is from the food, and this is what keeps your heart pumping, your brain firing, and the muscles repairing. And yes, even powers you through those 6 a.m. lifts. Think about it like this. Every single thing your body does is an energy transaction. Even when you're sitting in class half asleep, your body is still burning through fuel. So we put this into the chart on the left. This is how we take in energy from our carbs, fats, protein, and even alcohol. That is how we take it in. On the right-hand side, that is how we use it up. It's pretty simple, but where it gets tricky is how we stay on top of it. So and now we're looking at the scale on the top. On the left-hand side, we see negative energy balance, our first goal triangle. You're burning more than you eat. Translation, you're losing weight. And this could be your idea. You might want to be cutting fat, but if you're pushing it too hard, you're going to lose muscle mass, you're going to lose strength, your tank of recovery, and you're going to be walking around like you forgot how to eat. We want to make sure that a good goal moving up or down in weight is 1 pound to 3 pounds a week. If we're moving faster than that, something's wrong and we're losing potential. If we're moving slower than that, we need to adjust our plan. In the middle there, we got our neutral energy balance, where our calories in match our calories out. This keeps you steady. The same weight, the same energy. This is basically our maintenance mode. If this is our goal to hold weight and maybe optimize and try to pick up some of that muscle mass percentage, that's what we need to find out. And then on the right hand side, obviously, is our positive energy balance. Eating more than you burn. Done right, this means you're building muscle. Done wrong, well, you don't want to be the guy that fills out his jersey in all the wrong places. The bigger picture here is calories only control direction. So we're talking about scale weight, up, down, or steady. They do not control composition. That's where our macros come in, those carbs, fats, and proteins and the percentages, how much you're training, and the timing of the foods. Listen, you guys are going to be going through the next few months. We want to make sure that if there was two guys, we want to make sure both guys are putting on 10 pounds of muscle. One guy's not putting on fat, and one guy's not putting on just straight muscle. We need to find each plan differently, and they might be a little bit different on the numbers. Fueling and training smart doesn't happen overnight. It is not a race. Again, like I said before, we're aiming for 1 to 3 pounds of weight in either direction. That usually means adding or subtracting 250 to 500 calories per day. That's it. That will make you move. We just need to find what your energy balance is. Going faster than that, your body's not going to make the most out of it. And why it's important for baseball is, I mean, I don't have to be the one to tell you guys, it's about precision, power, and endurance. If our energy balance is off, your bat speed's going to drop, your recovery is going to slow, and your focus will take a hit. So we need to stop fearing the calories and we need to make sure that we're tracking them and dialing them in. You want to get bigger, you need to add fuel. You want to lean out, we need to trim it back. We need to stay sharp on this, keep it balanced. Bottom line, calories are not our enemies. These are your scoreboard. This is what's going to make the biggest difference in your game. We need to identify how the scale is moving. A good rule of thumb is stepping on the scale twice a week. When you wake up, go to the bathroom, get naked, step on the scale. If you're not moving in the right direction, you have to make an adjustment. It's going to pick up quick. 6 weeks can be 12 pounds in both directions. Don't waste your time. Get in front of this. So, covered a little bit about macros. We talked a little bit about energy. How do we kind of put it into practice? We use these three plates. This really kind of keeps it very simple when it talks about fueling. Our level one is our rest days, our travel days, our film days, our light movement days. Level two, this is practice, our strength and conditioning. If we're throwing a bullpen, if we're doing a little bit of running, that's where we want to be. Our level three is game days, tournaments, preseason. A lot of you guys will be in that level two to level three range. The goal isn't to make food complicated, it's to give you a framework. Fuel matches your workload. We need to eat more on our heavy demand days and pull back when we're not doing as much. This is the way we're going to recover, stay sharp, and avoid the classic mistake of under-eating when it matters most or overloading when you don't. That's why we need to step on the scale. You have to check if the plan we're implementing is working. If you're not checking twice a week, we're not going to know. The same reason why we track our weights in the gym. If you're not moving in the right direction, something's wrong. So when we're talking about hydration, and there's a lot to this, but it's a lot more than just chugging water. I like to kind of talk about signs of dehydration first. Dry mouth, headache, dizziness, cramping, fast heart rate. If it drags on, you'll feel more constant fatigue, poor recovery, joint pain, brain fog. And here's the biggest kicker is like even mild dehydration slows reflexes, blurs vision, and messes with coordination. In baseball, like I don't have to be, it's not a rocket science. That's going to be the major difference between making a play or booting it. So how do we get on track here? How do we make sure we're adjusted from being dehydrated? We put together the hydration triangle. We're just trying to keep it simple. Fluids at the top, plain water, drinking throughout the day. Our electrolytes, our sodium, potassium, magnesium, they kind of hold in those fluids and they kind of help you prevent from cramping. And then carbohydrates, they help move the water and electrolytes into your cell, giving you a longer period of hydration. So, a simple rule, we could take our body weight and cut it in half. And so, if we're 180 pounds, we're having about 90 ounces of fluids. Then, every hour of hard training we have, we might want to add in 20 to 30 ounces with some sources of electrolytes. We don't want to be dehydrated. If you want to see how much you truly sweat, go step on the scale before a lift and step on the scale after, and then subtract how much water you drank. That will be your sweat rate per hour. If you want to make those adjustments, if you lost 1 pound of weight during performance, you take that number in ounces, which would be 16, and you would times it by 1.5. You need to put back into your body 1.5 times that amount. So you could be getting 20 to 25 ounces after lifting. That helps your muscles rebound. It allows them to fuel bigger, feel stronger, and it's going to allow for that built up fatigue not to last. All right, supplements, everybody's favorite topic. Honestly, it's my favorite topic too because it's one of the most misunderstood parts. The reality with supplements is they're everywhere. Powders, pills, drinks, gummies, all promising to make you bigger, faster, stronger, leaner, recover. But not all supplements are created equal. Most of them are bullshit. One thing I want you guys to understand is that the FDA does not test or approve supplements before they hit the shelves. Companies can basically sell what they want for as longer for whatever they want to put into it until there's a reported problem. So that's why we need to be smart. The first rule we have about buying for supplements is we're looking for third party tested and that NSF for sport label I have on the slide. You guys shouldn't be taking anything that doesn't have that mark on it. This is the gold standard. It means that they are sending their product to a third party to make sure it's tested for any banned substances and there's no hidden junk or nothing that's going to jeopardize your game. So we want to make sure there's a little checklist we have. Again, we want to stick with reputable brands with the track record. You don't want to find some new company that popped up 2 minutes ago on TikTok. That's bullshit. We always want to check for the NSF certified for sport. Be skeptical of miracle claims. There is no magic pill. Don't fall for it. It's not worth it. And don't just wing it. You got good guys in your corners. You got some great coaches. You have a great strength coach. Talk to some professionals before starting anything new. Because the bottom line here, one bad product can cost you your eligibility, your performance, or even your health. With the right approach to this, you can get through it, get an edge without the risk. So when it comes to supplements, it's not what should I take? It's knowing how to evaluate what's safe and effective. The things that we're going to be talking about and what I recommend, it's not crazy. We're talking a multivitamin, creatine, whey protein, an omega, and a probiotic. Anything else on top of that is just extra. Those are the ones we should be looking at every day. If you're not taking those, I'd wonder why. If you're taking more than that, I'd wonder why. But again, in some questions, we could talk about a few if you guys have questions. All right. So let's zoom out for a second. I want to talk bigger picture. You guys are already college baseball players. And for some of you, that might be enough. You guys have made it here, you're on the roster, and that's an accomplishment in itself. But there are guys in that room right now that probably want more size, more velocity, more bats, and even a shot to play beyond college. This is where the details matter. Everything that we touched on today, nutrition, hydration, energy balance, supplements. Those are levers that you can actually control to separate yourself. Because talent and hard work will only take you so far if your body's not being properly fueled. And if you think of development like this round table I have here, every seat matters. You got your strength coach, your baseball coach, dietitian, maybe even a mental performance coach, and your family. When everybody at that table is aligned, pulling that same string in that same direction, that's when things click. If one chair is empty or someone's not on the same page, that's when gaps show. The guys who really take off are the ones who build a complete table and use every piece together. The truth is, development doesn't happen in great leaps. I'm sure a lot of you guys know that. You were college baseball players. You probably worked your ass off to be sitting in that room. It happens in small, consistent steps that happen over time. That's what this offseason's for. We want to take a couple more steps. We want to make sure we're getting the foundation to move forward for the spring. So, on the next slide, we're going to break down what the next couple weeks for you guys will look like and how to really fuel to perform and maximize the grind you guys will be having. I'll give you guys some practical food examples that you can plug into your routines so you guys aren't guessing. So we danced around a lot of really in-depth topics today, and you might be thinking, okay, I think I have an understanding, but just tell me what the hell to eat. And I get that. But if we don't know why or understand some of the reasoning behind those plans, it's going to be hard to be motivated to get to the cafeteria when it's cold or to get water after you come stumbling back in after a long night. I hope that education rings in your ears during those times. This schedule is around a day when you guys are lifting and have practice. The next couple of months, I've set up something. So generally, I would assume most of you guys are sitting close to around 200 pounds. So this meal plan is for somebody that's hitting 200 grams of protein per day. With the 5 a.m. lift, it's hard to really get a full breakfast before we go in. So we need to fuel up, but we want to make sure that we're not going to have anything that's going to impact us. So we need to have a high carb snack, low in fat and low in fiber. We don't want to be running to the bathroom halfway through or throwing up. Once we finish, We need to get in a ready to drink protein shake, maybe a piece of fruit before we hit breakfast to fill back up all those stores we just burned during our lift. Your muscle will not build without proper fueling. If you're not hitting your protein goal every day, you might be getting 20, 30% stronger, but you're not getting hypertrophy or growth of muscle. You need to hit that protein goal per day. And the one that I like to usually recommend is whatever your goal weight is within 3 months. If you're 150 pounds and you want to be 200 pounds, that's not realistic. Shoot for 180. Use that 3 month window. Going back in, breakfast and lunch will be based off those plates we saw earlier in the slides. Depending on your goals, you may want to choose level 1 if you're trying to trim up, or level 3 if you're trying to put on some mass. When we're going to lunch, if it's possible with your school schedule to get a meal in at least 2 hours prior to practice, we need to prioritize that and make that a non-negotiable. For our guys trying to put on weight, you cannot miss meals. That is not something we can mess around with. During practice and lifts, we obviously want to make sure we're hydrating with electrolytes. My guys trying to put on size, we may want to include some carbs in there. Obviously Gatorade's a thing, Liquid IV has carbs in it. There's tons and tons of them. Some of my guys that are trying to cut up or trying to lean out a little bit, we still want to get our electrolytes in, but look for the sugar-free options or the light options. Good day goal, again, for those fluids, it's half your body weight in ounces, and we want to add in 10 to 20 per hour of exercise. If I had one statement for you guys to remember, it's hit that protein goal, step on the scale twice a week, and if that number isn't moving in the right direction, make a change, add something to your plates, pull a snack. It's not rocket science. If you have direct questions after we talk today, reach out. To close, before we take questions, you guys are training 3 to 5 times a week and you're on the field for the same amount. But guess what? We're eating 3 meals a day. We need to make sure we take the same passion you guys have for baseball and for lifting and put 10% of that into putting some sort of schedule together for yourselves that supports your goals. And we need to make sure that you use this chart right here. It's a great place to start. If you need to change something because your class schedule is a little off, that's okay. But we need to make sure we're moving these blocks around to whatever fits your schedule. This will help you hit the 200 grams of protein. If you guys have more or less, we can kind of add to those portions. On the right-hand side here, we gave you some discount codes for Thorn, some Amazon link stuff that has all these great options, and the link to my website if you guys have anything there. I'm going to send all of this to Coach Danny so he can kind of hand it out to you guys. I kept this very condensed and short today. I know we're on a Sunday during football and there's a lot of crap going on, but this is something you guys need to hear before we go through the bulk of winter. I want to make sure you guys understand that we should be moving 1 to 3 pounds a week in either direction or optimizing the size we have. That really wraps up what we have today, guys. If you guys have any questions, I would love to hear right now, man.
Well, let's do this. Yeah. Rue, go ahead and ask that. And I'm going to cut the audio so we don't echo.
All right, I saw on the plate building slide, you separated the fruits and vegetables with carbs. What makes a fruit and vegetable different than an average carb?
So, fruits are carbohydrates. When I go to this plate, I want to make sure that we're just having some sort of fiber. So we want to make sure we have some fiber on our plate. So that's why I put a little bit of separation in there, because most of our carbs will have a little bit, but I just want to make sure we're getting a little more there. So our lettuce, our vegetables, anything we can find. But technically, most vegetables are carbs.
Danny knows how to.
Actually, don't ask that question. Next one's a no-go. Let's get somebody else. Go ahead, Zach.
Would it be more beneficial to drink like a Gatorade Zero or a regular Gatorade during the day to rehydrate yourself after practice?
So when we add in carbohydrates, it does actually help with hydrating. So if you are somebody that's more likely to cramp or you are somebody that's been struggling to stay hydrated, I would say to use the one with sugar. If we are somebody trying to lean out though, and then we feel that we're having 2 or 3 of these a day, we might want to lean towards some of the lighter options. But if you're trying to put on weight or you're really battling with cramps, I would say to lean towards the ones with carbohydrates. So, that's your liquid IVs full sugar, your Gatorade's full sugar, drip drops. The elements, the LMNTs, I'm not the biggest fan of. I know you guys are down in Florida, so you guys are sweating a lot more than some of our Northeast guys. I would still say to half those if you're taking them in.
Got anybody else? Questions? Go ahead, Dorsey.
How bad are energy drinks for you?
Great question.
He said energy drinks.
Yeah, all of them come in and lift at 6 with one every day. So
So the energy drinks, they kind of depending on what there's a difference between an energy drink and a pre-workout. So if you're going to grab, for an example, like a C4 compared to, let's say, a Celsius. So if you're getting a C4, they have some added benefits because they add in other compounds that help with vasodilation, the beta alanine, or some of those other compounds that to help you perform in your lift. Just having straight caffeine in the morning could give you that wake up, um, but I would try to just restrict them before 2 in the afternoon. Like I'm not going to tell you guys you shouldn't have them, but it's very hard to kind of get um, into that routine because the ups and downs of getting consistent with those energy drinks will be kind of hard to fight when you're going through your season and all the ups and downs of different timings of games. Um, Limit yourself to 200 to 300 milligrams of caffeine a day max. That's basically 1 or 2 Celsiuses. But I would just ask what type of drinks you would be bringing.
got anybody else? Questions? Okay, go ahead, us.
What's your opinion on whey protein versus pea protein and which one's better?
You said whey versus pea protein?
Yeah.
So when we're talking about different types of protein, it's a lot of the absorption rates. So a whey protein will have a better absorption rate than the pea. But I could tell you that if we have some sort of dietary restriction, or you just say that it upsets your stomach, that's why we kind of pull towards some of those other options. There's different levels to proteins. We have a whey versus a whey protein isolate that removes the lactose in the whey protein isolate, so it'll be a little bit lighter in calories and it'll be a little bit easier to digest. Do you take pea protein for any reason, or are you just asking the question?
Uh, I do pea protein, but like I don't know why.
I would tell you that if you like the taste, you could stick with it, but I would give it a shot to something probably a little bit more dense. Find something that gives you 30 grams per scoop. Um, but if you like it, you like it. As long as you're taking something, I would say.
That's 4. Let's get one more at least. What you got, Nelly?
Do you believe in the stigma around overeating red meat? Like, is there like, should you be balancing like a meat, like a chicken with red meat, or is like if you only eat red meat, is that fine?
I don't believe that you should restrict red meat. I think that you need to make sure we understand that all carbs, fats, and proteins have some sort of balance in your diet. So, like, if we craft up a meal plan for you guys, and let's talk about that athlete that's around 200 pounds, so you guys are moving a crazy amount. You probably need around 3,500 calories, if not more, a day. You're going to get maybe 35% of that from your protein. That could be 200 grams. You may need 50, 60 grams of fat during the day, and then you might need 200 to 300 grams of carbs. Those proteins, so if we get 200 grams, I would say that you should diversify the types of proteins you're eating. But if you tell me I only like to eat steak, then eat the steak. Let's make sure we get that protein in per day, and then we should work on diversifying it as it comes. But don't miss your protein goal just because you don't like the taste of something.
Got any more guys?
Got one for it.
Go ahead, Coach.
Do you have any tips for guys trying to put weight on?
I'm going to tell you the biggest tip right here. Let's go back to this plan. Is we need to make sure that we identify all of our windows for potentially eating. I don't know where your guys' cafeteria is. I don't know how often or if you guys live on campus, but I would tell you that you need to make sure pre and post a lift or practice, we're getting in some sort of protein and snack before we have a meal. You guys need to make sure that we do not miss one of these blocks, especially if we're gaining weight. That protein shake at the end of the night would also be needed. But again, if you guys step on the scale and you're moving 4 or 5 pounds a week, then you pull it back. But if you guys get on this plan and eat these plates and you're trying to gain weight and you don't, give me a call because something's wrong.
Nick, I'm gonna ask one right now too.
Shoot.
Yeah, go with 6:30 a.m. lifts. What would be kind of like a non-negotiable checklist for a couple of things these guys got to get in before they lift?
So again, we want to make sure we're sticking to a high carb source. So that could be waking up and crushing a banana, maybe crushing a yogurt. We have the high carb ones here, like the honey stingers, like those are great. Apple sauces are super easy. Like all these different types of fruit roll-ups, anything that kind of gets you those 20, 30 grams of carbs before you get in and just avoiding that fiber. If we're waking up in the morning and crushing a whey protein isolate shake that has 2 grams of carbs, you're not doing yourself any favor. If you're waking up in the morning and eating nothing, you're basically wasting the lift. You need to make sure we're getting in some sort of protein or carb in prior to lifting so we can really push it. You know, what's the point of waking up every day at 6:30 if we're not going to get the results?
Perfect. Anything else, guys? Yeah, go ahead, please.
About guys trying to lose weight.
Guys losing weight is the question.
Guys losing weight. So when we're looking at this chart, we still want to make sure we're hitting our protein goal every day. So the guy is trying to lose weight, you don't want to lose any muscle mass. Like if you look at some of the big league guys, I always like to tell the story about like CC Sabathia. CC Sabathia lost about 50, 60 pounds over one off season, and he came back and he lost 5 miles an hour. He then freaked out and put all of the weight back on. He never gained back all of that velocity. He didn't gain it back because when he lost the weight, he lost muscle mass. And when he put the weight back on in 2 or 3 months, he never turned it into muscle. You need to make sure we're pulling back 250 to 500 calories a day and still hitting whatever your goal weight is in protein so you're maximizing that. You need to hit that every day. When you're looking at this list right here, you can still have all of this food. You just can't have 2 or 3 plates of it. You need to just make sure we're showing ourselves that we have to have some limitations and we need a plan. Find out what amount of food moves the scale either direction and then change it. Tracking apps are on your phones, MyFitnessPal, Chronometer, all of those. You can take pictures of your food now. Like it's a lot easier to track. Do it for 2 days. See where you're at and see how the scale moves. If you need to subtract one snack uh, or one added protein shake, do it. You'll start losing weight, but make sure that the protein stays within that goal weight to maximize muscle retention.
Yeah, Nick, building on the question of pre-lift breakfast, can you kind of talk about a good strategy to get that in without rushing it last second and going right into lift? Like, what would you recommend on that in terms of habits, waking up time, digesting time, all that?
I would tell you that you can have any of these high carb snacks that I have right here. You can have it walking into the gym and it wouldn't upset your stomach. If you are a guy that wants to eat a little bit more and that can handle it, some guys doesn't affect their stomach, push it. Have what you need to eat. The easiest way to kind of get ahead of it is to go out and buy one of these boxes or go into your school store or wherever your cafeteria is, identify what the carbs are. If you can get fruit, if you can go get bread, maybe a PB&J sandwich, and leave 2 or 3 of them in your fridge. It's not hard to just grab one. The freshman guys, you might be in a little tougher situation than some of the older guys that might live off campus and have the kitchen space, but it's not that hard to put 2 or 3 PB&J sandwiches away to have them in the morning. Um, or some of these options I have up here, and there's dozens of them in the Amazon store. There's a ton of them. You just want to make sure that when you turn that label around, that we're seeing carbs, not fat and fiber.
You gotta bend on me, but we can make that happen. I'm gonna ask one more, Nick.
Shoot.
For extended practice durations and slash like in season when they're at the field for a long time,
Yeah.
what would be some successful things they can do to get some readily available carb sources?
Dude, again, like we're talking if we're talking high level performers and like when you need to have some of this stuff on the bench, on the sidelines, in your bags. You need to prepare yourself. So you want to have those electrolytes again, those have carbs in them, or you want to pack some of these honey stingers. Any of the athletes that I work with specifically will have basically 2 or 3 of these in. Every hour for a guy trying to gain weight should be having one of these at practice. Whether you're pitcher, outfielder, catcher, you need to mix something in. If you guys trying to lose weight and you need to kind of keep going and you feel like you're getting a little bit of fatigued, maybe we have one every 2 hours of something light. But we need to make sure we have stuff with us at practice, especially some of those 4 or 5 hour days. You can't just go 4 or 5 hours without fueling, especially if you're trying to put on weight during this off season.
Anybody else got anything? Let's go clap it up for Nick. Yeah. I appreciate it, man. Thank you for taking the time and helping us out.
Boys, I'm gonna send some stuff over to Danny. If you guys have any questions, I'll leave my contact stuff. I'm more than willing to help you guys out if you really need anything. And best of luck this season.